The Great Gatsby, read by Sam Robards.
In my younger years, my father gave me some advice that I've been turning over in my mind ever since. Whenever you feel like criticizing anyone, just remember that all the people in this world haven't had the advantages that you've had. In consequence, I'm inclined to reserve all judgments, a habit that has opened up many curious natures to me, and also made me the victim of not a few veteran bores. After boasting this way of my tolerance, I come to the admission that it has a limit. When I came home from the East Coast last autumn, I felt that I wanted no more privileged glimpses into the human heart. Only Gatsby, the man who gives his name to this story, was exempt from my reaction. There was something gorgeous about him, some heightened sensitivity to the promises of life. This responsiveness was an extraordinary gift for hope, a romantic readiness such as I've never found in any other person, and which it's not likely I shall ever find again. No, Gatsby turned out all right at the end. It is what preyed on Gatsby, what foul dust floated in the wake of his dreams that temporarily closed out my interest in the abortive sorrows and short-winded elations of men. My family have been prominent, well-to-do people in this middle western city for 3 generations. The Carraways are something of a clan. I graduated from New Haven in 1915, just a quarter of a century after my father, and a little later I participated in that delayed Teutonic migration known as the Great War. I came back restless, so I decided to go east and learn the bond business. It was a matter of chance that I should have rented a house in one of the strangest communities in North America. It was on that slender, riotous island which extends itself due east of New York, and where there are, among other natural curiosities, 2 unusual formations of land. 20 miles from the city, a pair of enormous eggs, identical in contour and separated only by a courtesy bay, jut out into the great wet barnyard of Long Island Sound. I lived at West Egg, the less fashionable of the 2. My house was at the very tip, only 50 yards from the Sound, and squeezed between 2 huge places that rented for $12,000 or $15,000 a season. The one on my right was a colossal affair by any standard, in more than 40 acres of lawn and garden. It was Gatsby's mansion. My own house was an eyesore, but it was a small eyesore, and I had a view of the water, a partial view of my neighbor's lawn, and the consoling proximity of millionaires. All for $80 a month. Across the courtesy bay, the white palaces of fashionable East Egg glittered along the water, and the history of the summer really begins on the evening I drove over there to have dinner with the Tom Buchanans. Daisy was my second cousin once removed, and I'd known Tom in college. His family were enormously wealthy. Even in college, his freedom with money was a matter for reproach. Why they came east, I don't know. They had drifted here and there unrestfully wherever people played polo and were rich together. This was a permanent move, said Daisy over the telephone, but I didn't believe it. And so it happened that on a warm, windy evening I drove over to East Egg. Their house was even more elaborate than I expected, a cheerful red and white Georgian colonial mansion overlooking the bay. The front was broken by a line of French windows, glowing now with reflected gold and wide open to the warm, windy afternoon. Tom Buchanan in riding clothes was standing with his legs apart on the front porch. He had changed since his New Haven years. Now he was a sturdy, straw-haired man of 30, with a rather hard mouth and a supercilious manner. We walked through a high hallway into a bright, rosy-colored space, fragilely bound into the house by French windows at either end. The windows were ajar and gleaming white against the fresh grass outside. A breeze blew through the room, blew curtains in at one end and out the other like pale flags, twisting them up toward the frosted wedding cake of the ceiling.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?